Welcome in to the latest episode of the Need for Seeds College Basketball Podcast. I'm your host, real_G Warner, joined as always by my co-host at Big East Ben. It is the Sweet 16 edition. We're going to have best bets end of show, a recap of the last round, and we'll go through each and every game, totals and spreads, and try to give you some winners. I think we had a really good start to the NCAA tournament, and I think once the entire favorites board started covering spreads, I know I didn't do great in the latter stages of this past round. Is that how you saw it, Ben?
Yeah, we got burned by a few teams just not showing up. Looking at you, Utah State, looking at you, James Madison, looking at you, Yale. Um
We did win our
tournaments
double best bet though.
tournament is 6 rounds, guys. It's not decided after the first round. You got to keep playing. So but yes, we cleaned up on best bets 10-2 on the week.
Nice. That's a nice little 83% if my math serves me correct. I actually was looking, and I think I was watching an NIT game in the past, and it looked like Utah State had a 1 point lead with like 8 minutes left to go in the first half against Purdue. I think what happened with Danny Sprinkle is he decided to bench his players when they got 2 fouls, which they were hacking Edie like crazy, and then just playing just literal backups to backups at Utah State, which had no returning points scored to the entire team this year. And I think that was a big panic because in the next refresh of the Purdue Utah State score, I think Purdue had gone on an 11-0 run. And then the next time I saw it again, it was like a 19-0 run. And that's where I think Utah State lost their chances. It seemed like Purdue, I mean, we could probably talk about the teams that have advanced, that we probably could do that in individual games. But it seemed like favorites rolled, which is really not something that usually happens in that second day or of the first round or first weekend, I guess is a better way to put it. But looks like we got some pretty good matchups coming up this week at the very least.
Yeah, I mean that's what the benefit of chalk is. Yeah, on that sprinkle note, I think around the 10-minute mark, I saw him take out a cell phone from his pocket, and he was having a conversation with looked like the UW AD,
Ah,
and then decided to mail it in after that. So
well, I mean, you
that
could
guy's kind of a
certainly.
dude. Sprinkle's a snake. 2 years at Montana State, 1 year. What a stone stepping rat that guy is.
Dude, well, I would hope that whoever was firing Mike Hopkins that had hung up once he saw that his inability to play his backup center until the game was, or his starting center, excuse me, with 2 fouls, so the game was completely out of hand. You could argue the same thing for Dusty May, literally just standing on the sideline, not even calling timeouts, just doing nothing while his team is. I mean, miraculous that FAU were in a position to potentially cover if they made some free throws late and then went to overtime. I mean, that was if there's anyone that seems to be maybe smoke and mirrors right now to me, it seems like it might be Dusty May, losing to a literally 60% of the starting lineup, Northwestern, and on not a very talented team in general. But I guess we're taking that way, way back. Northwestern then went to the next round and were the Lambs to the UConn slaughter. I don't know. I mean, I think A&M Houston was wild. I think that one, our double best bet. I guess we can close on that note before we move to the games. But that was a pretty incredible game. Houston bringing on a walk-on to make free throws, or 1 out of 2 free throws late to seal the game.
Elvin.
I mean, I was literally at the Big 12 tournament the week before, as most people who listen to this Need for Seeds College Basketball podcast are subscribed on YouTube or on Apple Podcasts or on Spotify or anything like that. We appreciate that. And you would have heard this by now. But a friend of mine who was in town, he's like, why are they yelling so much? It's like a 30-point game at the end. And I was like, they're trying to get the guy off the end of the bench in. And then literally fast forward to the next weekend in the actual NCAA tournament, not the Big 12 tournament. He's in there making free throws because they had everyone else foul out of the game. So that was pretty wild. And I guess was kind of nice, except I really wanted Texas A&M to take that one down despite
Hey,
the
if
prices alone.
if they shot 70% from the line, they win that game easily.
I mean, if they shot 60% of the line, they'd probably win that game. It's incredible. I mean, I guess you could argue that they were just so gassed when they finally got to the line. I remember Bill Walton saying that free throws were his time to rest. I don't think that that's how they think about it in this world of college basketball, but I guess that's a blast from the past. So we'll start in rotation, we'll go in rotation order. We'll start on Thursday night with Illinois and Iowa State. This is at TD Garden in at Big East Bend, formerly known as Boston Ben's stomping grounds, though it might be across the state line or two from where he actually lived. It looks like Iowa State opened a 2.5 point favorite. They're now down to 1.5 at Bet Online. If you're not a member of Bet Online or Sportsbetting.ag, we have links to the podcast description, which gets you a free $500 in cash. If you put a $500 deposit in at sportsbetting.ag and free 50% whatever you put in at Bet Online. I believe that's up to $250. But let me know if you do end up using it. But that'll be published in all the podcast descriptions. So make sure you check that out if you're not a member of those sites. But Bet Online's dealing Iowa State -1.5 right now. Total was 146.5 at open. It's now 146 even at Bet Online.
So Illinois has been rolling.
Big Ten champions against
absolutely
12 champions.
They, had out of the 4 halves of basketball they played in this tournament, one was competitive. That was the first half against Morehead State. I didn't watch the Iowa State Washington State game as close because I was mostly paying attention to North Carolina, Michigan State. But Iowa State seemed to have a little bit of problems with Washington State.
Yeah, they were trailing for a while. Yep.
Yeah. I think it's going to be an awesome game. Probably neck and neck with Creighton and Tennessee as the 2 games I'm most excited to see in the Sweet 16. Illinois is the 2 best players on the court, Terrence Shannon Jr. and Marcus Damask. The defense that had been a problem during Big Ten play is starting to trend up. I mean, I know Morehead State and Duquesne
hey now. Whoa.
Aren't the Showtime Lakers, but they absolutely stymied them. Iowa State's going to have to make, I think, a lot of threes, which is not their game. Illinois is a pretty good interior defense. But the wild card, Griffin, and why I'm picking my pick, the emergence of Danger.
Danger!
Get
on the floor.
I don't think people are talking about this guy enough. He has made 17 consecutive shots. He hasn't missed a shot since March 15th. He is a monster. He is a total weapon that is not being reflected in the metrics right now because he barely played 70% of the season. I like Illinois here. I'm going to take the offense over the defense. Give me the Illini moving on to the Elite 8.
So Danger has not exactly played an Iowa State defense ever since he started in that lineup. I'll put it that way. I don't think that any Big Ten teams prepared well for this NCAA tournament based off their conference. I think that is a big reason why Big Ten teams have struggled for a very long time in this NCAA tournament. I think there's way too much respect for Illinois, who does not defend, and I would not let a simple run through Wisconsin and and Ohio State, and trying to remember who the other team that Illinois played in Indiana, maybe
Nebraska.
Yeah, which they were down like 15 points at halftime.
They don't panic, dude. They get down all the time and they come back.
Yeah. You know who you don't get down? Just ask Houston how falling behind Iowa State went. I don't think this
because this game's being played in Ames, Iowa. I forgot about that.
Yeah, it is going to be in Boston, which is going to be, I mean, it's basically going to be UConn fans. And I mean, I guess there's going to be some seats, but it's a much longer drive than Hilton South, as they called it, which did help in Omaha, certainly in the first weekend as well for Iowa State. But I'm enjoying seeing Illinois keep catching money. The number keeps dropping. When it hits -1, I'll be playing Iowa State. But for now, I'll still lock in Iowa State -1.5 because I don't think Danger has seen any sort of defense like he'll see from Iowa State.
Yeah. I don't know why you're ripping on the Big Ten when the Big 12 has just as many teams remaining.
I think we've seen how many Big 12 national championships in the past like 6 years? How many Big 10 teams have made the Final Four?
I don't know. Mateen Cleaves. I thought that's what you were going to ask.
No. So there's a long line of Big Ten teams that have been out right about in this stage
This
or
is not a
beforehand.
typical Big Ten team, Griffin. This is a loaded offense. This is not your Wisconsin 3 seed. Um this is not a Purdue. Like, this team is could compete in the Big 12 offensively. They're loaded. And the defense is coming along.
So
I knew we were going to be against each other because you're Mr. Cyclone, but
I mean I pretty much should get a tattoo at this point. But yes, last title was Michigan State in 2000, I believe. So that's 24, soon to be 25 years, or soon to be 24 years. Unless Purdue somehow finds a way to win this thing. I don't think Illinois is going through Iowa State and the winner of UConn, most likely, and San Diego State to get there.
I
Um,
don't think so.
but let's see. Final four appearances by conference. I'll get to that. I'll give you an answer on that one. I'll move to the for some reason the earlier game that's listed second in order of rotation. Thank you, Don Best. I think they're the ones that put that out there. But UConn, a 9.5 point favorite, had opened to San Diego State. That with a total of 135.5 points. Total has not moved, but UConn's up to an 11 point favorite.
All right, I'm going to list out some numbers for you, okay?
I'm ready.
14, 15, 23, 28, 13, 17, 39, and 17. Any idea what those are?
I'm gonna guess margin of victories for UConn.
Margin of victories in their last 8 tournament games.
Mm.
I didn't spend a whole lot of analytics on this game because there are a couple things. One, I think this San Diego State team is not as good as last year's team. I don't know if the UConn team is better than last year's team, but last year's team didn't have Donovan Kling starting, okay, and playing significant minutes. Uh, Jaden Ledee is going to be a non-factor with
Whoa.
the Klingon in the lineup. And then, yeah, I just don't know if you're San Diego State and you're, the guys from last year. I know you made it a 5 point game, kind of midway through the second half and made a little bit of interesting, but you still lost by 17. I don't know how you're walking into that arena filled with mass holes, and Patriot slash UConn fans, the most obnoxious people on the planet, feeling any
It
type
takes
of
one to know one, yeah.
feeling any type of confident. And then you got Dan Hurley, who's just in these interviews just spouting off about the draw they get and telling his players kick. I've heard that he's like keep kicking the shit out of these teams. Like, he literally like addressed a big crowd like that. So
Yeah,
yeah, I
he's
think
a maniac. You know he wears the same underwear?
yeah, it's like Spider-Man underwear.
I, I didn't know that graphic, but I mean, guy's a lunatic.
And he eats, have you heard the M&M story?
He only eats green M&Ms. That sounds like a
No,
hazing ritual
he
from
picks
sororities.
he either doesn't eat the colors of the opponent or he only eats the I don't know. Anyway, weird
I'm
guy.
gonna let's make this a the Need for Seeds college basketball reporting that Dan Hurley only eats M&Ms of the teams he's facing so he can digest their colors before he goes out and pees them onto the court.
Yeah, that not wrong.
You heard it here first. Might not be true.
So given all that, given all those deep analytical trends, I'm going with UConn.
UConn 11 point favorite. That's a big number. So my concerns for good old UConn here. I'll start with the Klingon. He's awesome, but he doesn't really go outside very often. He doesn't really defend the perimeter, and Zach LeDee's been really good lately. He's been making a bunch of
Jaden.
threes. No one's been stopping him.
Jaden.
What?
You said Zach Ledee.
Jaden Ledee, my bad. Who's Zach? Zach Ledee's another player, I think, maybe from years and years ago. I do think that San Diego State has a very big limiting factor, as I've been preaching all season. They can't shoot threes. I think they're still in the 300s in the country. I don't really know how that's gonna go again. I mean, maybe they finally get some freshmen that make some shots out of nowhere. Maybe Reese Waters, who's I think on his 5th year, played at USC for a while, and I guess jumped the sinking ship as they started getting Bronny James on the team, and finally came to the good side of Southern California. But I don't know that I want to lay 11 here. I think this game is tighter than this number suggests. So I'll go under 130 at 5.5 points as a way to potentially back the Aztecs in a close game, because I don't think they're hanging around if this one's a high scoring game. I'll put it that way. So I think Brian Dutcher knows that, and that's going to be their plan. And to tie up a loose or I can tie up the loose ends at the end. We'll get to the next set of games. These are still on Thursday, the 28th of March, the year of our Lord 2024. Again, starting in the backwards order of game times, but this is how the rotation is listed. We'll go Alabama and North Carolina at the Crypto.com arena, formerly Staples Center, formerly, I think, FTC or one of the failed crypto exchanges arena before this crypto current exchange naming. We had North Carolina open a 3.5 point favorite with a total 173 points. Now the total is 130, 173.5. So climbed one half of a point, and the total is 4. North Carolina 4 point favorite to Alabama.
I will be in attendance for
Hell
this
yeah.
game.
Do you have tickets?
Yeah, they're cheaper than Dallas.
Well, I mean, I bet. Which,
Oh,
actually for I mean, because Alabama's probably not traveling too much. UNC and Arizona should be a huge part of that crowd. Anyway, keep going.
yeah. So you really saw again Alabama play the basically mirror image of them, except if the mirror image had a baseball bat. Uh, anyway, Charleston's
A
Charleston's a
baseball
bad
bat.
team.
All
I
right,
don't know.
there we
I don't
go.
know. I wouldn't know.
Nice. Okay.
Anyway, they face their mirror image if they face their twin if their twin
Oh no. Oh no.
had
Oh no.
special needs. Anyway,
Thank you. Thank you for making that as soft as you could. And I knew it was going somewhere bad. Go ahead.
in Charleston, lit them up, 108 points. They then faced a much more athletic, much more physical Grand Canyon team and saw a big drop off in the numbers. Only shot 8 of 31 from 3. That's 25%. And we know they need to make threes because they only shot 47% from 2. North Carolina, I just think is like I don't think Hubert Davis is going to let Alabama get into a running match as much. Like that's not the way to beat Alabama. I think North Carolina has more control. Their average defensive possession length shows they can slow the game down on the defensive end. I think they're going to work it more inside with Baycott instead of jacking threes. I'm leaning North Carolina minus 4.5, but I think a safer play is the under 173.5. I think that is way too many points in a game with this kind of atmosphere.
Yeah, so I'm not sure the crowd makes a huge difference here. I would expect more North Carolina support than Alabama, but who knows? Because it's probably going to be a lot of Arizona support if they win that earlier matchup than rooting for the easier path for them. With a North Carolina number at -4, only 4, I'm going to take North Carolina. I'll lay the 4 points, as I'm not a believer in really either of these teams, but especially Alabama. And as you mentioned, if they don't make threes, I think they have a real tough time hanging around. We'll move to the earlier of those 2 games in Los Angeles that Ben will be at Big East Bend, not at Mountain West Bend. You got to be careful about that one. The in control, non-special needs at Big East Bend will be there. So we'll look at Clemson. They were an underdog twice and somehow made it through 2 games despite being a 6 seed. They opened 6.5 point underdogs to Arizona with a total of 152 points. That's still there. Total is about the same, a little bit more juice in the under, which is a little bit surprising. But the spread has climbed to 7 points right now. Arizona laying a touchdown to Clemson.
Yeah, you know how you win 2 games as an underdog?
How?
You have your opponent shoot a combined 9 of 47 from 3, 19%, and 31 of 49 from the stripe, 63%. Clemson ranked this year 128th in 3-point defense. So I don't think it was Joe Girard and Hunter getting after, these opponents, New Mexico, Baylor.
which
I
is
think
funny because Baylor was at one point the number one 3-point shooting team in the country this year. Not anymore, I don't think, clearly,
you
after
know
that
who is
performance.
now?
You know who is now?
Yeah,
The top 3-point shooting team in the country, number one.
percentage wise. They're in
Uh,
the Sweet 16.
uh, do they have MU rah rah in their fight song?
No,
I thought you were leading me in that direction. Okay.
it's Purdue.
Yeah.
Purdue's number one,
Yeah,
which
that's what happens when they have five guys collapse on a 7'4" Goliath.
yeah.
Everyone gets
I
open
mean,
shots.
it's not like so. Again, given those metrics, like I don't think Clemson played like out of this world on the offensive end. Like they made 35% of their threes. They made their free throws. They're a good 3-point free throw shooting team. Best in the field, I think. So Clemson very lucky to be here. They are going to get a different beast in Arizona. 19th best 3-point shooting team in the country. 8th fastest tempo. Clemson does not play great transition defense. They don't get any second chances. Arizona gets a billion on the glass. Like you said, I think there's going to be a huge Wildcat faithful in Los Angeles. I will not be a part of that, but it's going to be there. I like Arizona minus 7.5. Absolutely just making a mockery of Clemson. Great story, though. Shout out to ACC. Sorry for bashing you all these episodes.
Yeah, I'm not going to apologize, but only seven, only a simple touchdown you have to lay. I'm going to go with a closer game than expected, but I'll go with the under 152 as well. I don't think Clemson's playing a game in the 90s and hanging around 7 points. I do think that there's an interesting matchup here with PJ Hall and Umar Ballo, who basically got benched against Dayton and Deron Holmes last week, and thinking that the best potential like efficiency player on the Arizona team. I don't think that's debatable with Caleb Love and his inability to consistently score points. Seeing Ball get benched was, I thought, a pretty gutsy move by Tommy Lloyd, basically saying, okay, we're not going to play our way, we're going to play your way. Um, Especially after they got out to a 17-point lead in the first half. But then things got a little bit hairy. They almost didn't cover that first half spread if that shot somehow had gone down. But I swear I cannot get a last second shot to beat the first half buzzer to win. They only go in when the other team have no business covering. But I think Clemson causes some problems. I think they're very disciplined, and I think that's part of what we saw and why they beat New Mexico so badly is that Clemson is a disciplined team that has a capable and somewhat coherent coach. And you cannot say that about anyone in the Patino family, but especially not Little Richard. So I think that worked out very well. And then I think Clemson just jumped on Baylor and ran away with it, which was a pretty big step in the right direction. So that'll be my pick for that game.
So I did not notice the benching of Ballo. I'll admit. So did they go small or did they bring in the 7-2 freshman?
No, Krivas barely played. They went Keyshawn Johnson at the five.
Okay.
And then what ended up happening, and Boswell didn't play at all. I mean, it was basically like Bradley and Lewis off the bench that were really awesome in that game, and surprised me. I mean, I didn't expect Tommy Lloyd to do that. I had some questions about Boswell coming in, who seemed to be super hot in the opener, but that was against a team of let's just say someone took a baseball bat to the mirror that they were staring in. Maybe that's what you're the reference you're going for. But just an ugly type of first game that Boswell was able to do really well in. It still seems to me Arizona's a love launching threes. And if they go in, which they did early against Dayton, that's why they built up such a big lead. But when they stop going in, then they're like, what do we do here? Especially if they take ball off the floor because he can't guard anybody that can move at all. Maybe Deron Holmes is probably the far tougher matchup than PJ Hall, since Deron Holmes is probably going to lottery and PJ Hall's maybe getting drafted in the second round, but probably going to sign a 10-day contract with the Wizards and see if he can win more games in DC. Like, I think the NC State Wolfpack won more games in DC than the Wizards have so far this season, which is hilarious. But I don't know. I mean, I'd like to pick Clemson. I think I want more points, and I'm kind of surprised this number is as small as it is, to be frank. You ready to move to Friday? Okay, so we'll move to Friday. The first matchup on the list is actually an earlier start. Thank you to the whoever out there. the Flying Spaghetti Monster. Gonzaga and Purdue. We'll start Purdue a 4.5 point favorite at open. It's climbed to 5.5 since then. Total is 154 at open. It's now 154 and a half.
So of all the teams entering this, in the Sweet 16, I think the team I've been impressed with the most has been Gonzaga. Absolutely demolished the mid-major Darling McNeese State by 30 and absolutely kicked the crap out of Kansas in that second half there, to the absolute run away with that game. I think we all saw that coming. Just the way that Kansas finished that game against Sanford, when facing a deeper team like the Zags, they just did not have enough stamina. So I've been very impressed with them. I don't think they get by Purdue. I don't. They don't force enough turnovers. They can't pressure the guards enough. They are extremely dependent on the two ball driving. That's going to be difficult. Don't have great 3-point defense. Their stud Graham Ike, he's going to get in foul trouble right when he steps on the floor. I want to pick the Zags, but I think Purdue gets by here by not a not a blowout, but 8-9 point game.
Okay, so that suggests some foul questions late. So I'll answer the Big Ten question. The last time a Big Ten team made the Final Four, want to guess when that was? Beep beep beep.
Wait, Wisconsin?
No, I'm saying when, what year?
2016 Wisconsin?
No, 2019, so more recent.
Wait,
But
wait, 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 wait. Was it Michigan State?
it was. So Michigan State in 2019, the last Big Ten team to make the Final Four. It's been a while for a team that gets a ton of bids in a 1 seed. Usually, as we saw Purdue last year, didn't even win one game. Um, so when you look at Purdue, yes, their 3-point shooting now is first in all of the land, as Big East Ben pointed out. Though there's a ton of movement from these metrics numbers and all these sort of things that occurs during the NCAA tournament. So if there's a way to snapshot it from before this all started, I would suggest using that. Unfortunately, I don't know that I did that, so I can't say exactly what they were beforehand. Regardless, Zach Edey is the first place you start. He's the one that makes all those 3-point shots go in because there's no defense. And ultimately, I mean, Purdue basically made it rain on Utah State with a bunch of backups that came in and had open shots, and they all hit them. It was pretty impressive. I think Gonzaga has a lot of height to bother Zach Edey. They played earlier this year. Mark Few had mentioned when they played Baylor a couple seasons ago in the national championship. That was one of those games. They were supposed to play earlier in the season, but got canceled due to COVID. I think it was at the Sanford Pentagon in South Dakota, one at Mountain West Ben's favorite states. But he had said that he really wished that he had been able to play them beforehand because he felt like it would have allowed them to not fall into such a hole so early. Having the benefit for Gonzaga, so if you think about it, they don't play a lot of good teams. I mean, they do it all out of conference, and then they basically go into a shell in conference play and build up a ton of confidence. Plus, they improved a lot of their questionable 3-point shooting numbers, and I think those have carried over into this tournament. Nolan Hickman seems really good at threes. Nemhard's been really struggling, but he's more of the driver, it seems, this year. And I got to say, I feel like I'm pretty impressed by the way the Zags play basketball. I think that second half against Kansas was a really good showing. I don't know if that's problematic because they didn't have a great first half. But I think Graham Ike is a very tough matchup for Zach Edey, one of the best post players in basketball, not named Zach Edey. And if there's some sort of situation where Zach Edey gets in foul trouble, God forbid they actually called him for a foul. I don't know how Purdue performs in that situation. I don't know necessarily that that's a likely kind of standard, especially because deeper in this NCAA tournament we get, the less fouls are called, I feel. But the nice part is behind Ike, you have Greg, who's more of an outside shooter, but still like a 7-footer. Huff at 6'10 listed there. And then Anton Watson has played big guys before. So I think they have a lot of depth back there to potentially play and use 5 fouls per person. Unfortunately, hopefully they're a little bit smarter than Danny Sprinkle and wait to get blown out before you start bringing in your starting center. I think 5.5, and as this keeps climbing, I get more and more interested in Gonzaga. So I'll take Gonzaga 5.5 point underdog, and we
But
are.
you on your scale of 6'9" power forward centers, you have Graham Ike way above Great Osobor.
So Great Osabor, I mean, I thought Great Osabor would have a lot more success. I thought he had success inside, but what really to me happened for a lot of it is they didn't put Great Osabor guarding him, and they had bigger guys on the floor that was guarding. So I don't know exactly what that matchup's going to look like. I think they're going to use EK and Greg and kind of flip flop who's going to be guarding him, and that makes really Gonzaga's interior huge when Anton Watson's playing the three at 6'8" or 6'9". And then EK's there at the same, and Greg's a little bit taller. I think Grado Sabor, I mean, he had some moves that got by Edie very easily, but it didn't seem to matter because unfortunately Purdue was making a ton of shots. So it's a little bit different scenario. I'm a little bit concerned that Gonzaga, if they don't shoot well to start, that they can get in a hole and then it's going to be really hard to come back. But I don't think it's as easy for Purdue moving forward. So that's why I'll take the 5.5 on Gonzaga. Next one in that region before we get to our last set of games is Creighton and Tennessee. This should be a good one. Should be what the old folks used to call a dandy. Tennessee opened a 2-point favorite at Bet Online, currently -3. Total is 142.5, and it's climbed to 143.5.
This is hard. This is the hardest game to pick. I mean, if Tennessee shoots like they did against Texas, I think they're toast. I don't think they're going to shoot the way they did against Texas. But Creighton just has so many weapons: Ashworth, Shireman, Alexander, and then you got Cockbrenner, and then this is going to be an awesome game. This is going to be a really fun game. Um, I want to bet the over, but I feel like Tennessee can turn this into a grinded out type game with their defense. Defense wins championships. Tennessee is the superior defense. Tennessee is the best player on the court. I'm going to go with the Volunteers here, -3.
Weird. I didn't know Baylor Sharman played for Tennessee.
Disagree.
Just kidding. I'll take
Baylor Shireman. Hey, shout out. Hey, let's let's clap it up for Baylor Shireman. He earned that $650,000 NIL deal this year. Good job, Baylor.
Hey, he had some really bad showings in the past, but he's been good. I agree. A lot more threats in the Creighton offense. And I think Creighton's going to funnel all to Ryan Kalkbrenner, and he's going to have some success because I don't think Joseph Idu with his long twos is really a good comparison. Give me Creighton +3. I think they win straight up. Move next to the Dallas, Texas region, literally across the street from where I call home. And we have what starts with quite a another dandy, potentially, hopefully not a dandy for the at Big East Ben and family coming into beautiful DA little LAAS for this weekend game. NC State, an 11 seed. I think the lowest seed remaining in the tournament right now. They are facing Marquette. Marquette, a 6.5-point favorite. That stayed the same. Total is 150.5 points. It's now 151.
Yeah, so we will I'm going to be flying from LA to Dallas Friday morning, so seeing 4 games in 24 hours.
Hell yeah. What a weekend.
That's what's called a Big East Ben wet dream, folks.
Looks like 73 on Friday with a little bit of wind. Maybe we get some tanning in.
Yeah, I think I'm gonna rock no shirt under the D Wade jersey to the game.
There we go.
Look, when Kentucky went down to Oakland, I texted my dad and I'm like, and this is before Marquette played Western Kentucky. I'm like, we could be looking at a UConn last year type draw here. Now obviously that would not be so true. I mean, who'd they beat UConn beat to make the Final Four?
They beat Miami in the Final Four.
Right. Who'd they beat before that?
I don't know. I'll look. You talk.
But anyway, like you couldn't have asked for a better draw. When Cody Williams and then I think it was Cody Williams and Simpson just got wide open looks to take the lead with like under 2 minutes left, and thankfully they didn't drop.
Yep.
Listen, DJ Burns scares the crap out of me, especially because Osa Iguodala has not been playing well. He has been very indecisive. He's been turning the ball over. And he is slightly less heavy as Mr. Burns. I think like the only thing NC State excels in is not turning the ball over. Like other than that, they're on the hottest of hot starts, and the trends show that when these double digit seeds make the Sweet 16, they
All right,
get
hold on. Let me talk for
their
a second.
asses handed
Let
to
me
them.
let me
Probably,
talk for a second because
yeah.
you sound like an actual robot.
Oh
So
crap.
I think the point you were making was that the that's not so good for 11 seeds or double digit seeds when they get to the Sweet 16 that they might get exposed. I would agree that NC State doesn't have much that looks very good about their profile. They do have a really good interior scorer named DJ Burns, who might be 50 pounds heavier than he's listed. And that's a big, big problem because I don't think he can play in a pick and roll. And I was pretty impressed. Tyler Cole looked pretty good in his return from his oblique injury, having not played in what felt like a month and a half, maybe longer, maybe around that time. Um, and I gotta say, Cam Jones somehow survived a ton of foul trouble when no one else is committing fouls on that team. Did not cover the spread, but I'll give Marquette a 6.5 point favorite. What's your pick?
Uh Marquette's gonna let him hang around. They're gonna win, but I'm gonna go over 150.
Over 151. Okay. And the last game we'll go before we get into best bets is Duke and Houston. Houston opened a 4 point favorite, and it's still there. Total is 133.5 at open. Now it's 134.5.
Do you have any sources on who's refereeing this game?
Because if it's someone who calls a lot of fouls, that's a big, big problem for the team in red. And if someone who doesn't call a lot of fouls is a big, big problem for the team in blue. I would go with there's going to be less foul calls.
Yeah, because I mean that's when Houston loses. Is when yeah. Because there's this ref, what's his name? Um
Jeff Anderson, high knees.
Brian Sermon,
Okay.
Doug Sermon.
Doug Sermon.
Doug Sermon.
Yeah, I know him.
He's like refed all four of their losses, Houston. And he's his crew is slated, but they haven't done the assignments yet. You know, okay.
No, you're a
Griffin,
robot.
can you hear me?
You're a robot. You're coming in and out. Why don't you tell me your pick right now, and then I will figure out a way to close this out.
Over 134.
Over 134.5 for at Big East Bet on Duke and Houston. From my perspective, I think this is a tough game for Houston, as I felt all of them would be tough starting in that second round once they got through a 16 seed. I'm more interested in, I mean, I don't think that Duke will shoot, and I don't think Jared McCain will make 6 out of 6 threes in the first half to fully kill the James Madison Dukes. But I feel like it's a different scenario here. But teams that beat Houston are ones that shoot threes. And I think Duke, I mean, we've seen them get the whistle for a long time. So I'll go Duke +4 in this game. How about for a best bet at Big East, Ben?
Illinois.
Illinois +1.5 is Big East Ben's best bet for this episode. Well, I guess I'm going to have to figure out what my best bet will be. And I think I'm going to go with, I think it'll be the sexiest matchup we got.
Do it. Do it.
So you just
Do
heard
it.
at Big East
Do
Ben.
it.
He
Do it.
gave you his best bet, and he keeps telling do it and ruining this less than a minute left. But he's going Illinois 1.5 point underdog against Iowa State on Thursday. For my best bet, I'm going Creighton Blue Jays, a 3 point underdog against Tennessee, as I think it's going to be a really, really tough scenario for Tennessee to get a win here. I think Creighton forces the entire Tennessee offense inside, and I don't think that goes well for Tennessee. I think Creighton has lights out 3 point shooting. I think they can win this game at Little Caesars Arena in Detroit, Michigan. Pizza, grab. Oh, we're out of. It's amazing. Amazing how we run out of space. Anyway, it's been a great episode filled with technology glitches. We will see you all for another episode the next time before the Elite Eight kicks off this weekend.